Hey there! Let's talk about angle postulates and theorems related to angles. So right here we have a square, and we know that in a square each angle is 90 degrees, which is a right angle. Now, one of the first theorems or postulates we're going to cover is the right angle postulate, which says that all right angles are congruent because they're all 90 degrees. Now, that's checked, so each right angle is congruent. Next one is all straight lines are congruent, and what that means is that a straight line is 180 degrees. These are two straight lines, they're both 180 degrees, and that will not change, so that is why they're both congruent, and that is checked. In other words, this is also a linear pair, kind of, because when you have a very long line, we're going to look at some new concepts such as complements and supplements. Complements are two angles that add up to 90 degrees, such as in a right angle, and supplements are the same thing but for 180 degrees, so that would use more of a straight line or a 180 line. So first here, this one, we have angle 1 and angle 2, and this is supposed to represent a right angle. So I'll just write that right there. It should be a right angle, and we're saying that angle 1 is complement to angle 2, and that means that angle 1 and angle 2 add up to 90 degrees. Same thing for angle 3 and angle 2, which means that right here is also a right angle. There is a theorem that tells us that the two complements are actually congruent to each other. So angle 3 and angle 1 would be congruent to each other because they share this complement in angle 2. And this is also a version of the transitive property which says if A equals B, then B equals C, then A equals C. That's the same thing here. If angle 1 is complementary to angle 2, and if angle 3 is complementary to angle 2, then angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent, or in other words, equal to each other. Same thing, same concept for supplementary angles in the supplementary theorem here. And so if angle 1 is supplementary to angle 3, and angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3, which is right here, this makes up 180, and right here too. So if those two are 180, then angle 1 and angle 2 will also be congruent. And one more thing here. As you can see, angle 1 and angle 4 are supposed to make up a 180. And what this is trying to say is that, so let's say, this angle and that angle, they're kind of vertical to each other, right? Well, in that case, there's another theorem that says vertical angles are congruent. So let's say angle 1 was 30, then angle 4 would also be 30, because of this vertical angle congruency. You'll know if there's a vertical angle when two lines cross. So let's say this line and that line. If they cross, then the angles that are opposite from each other are vertical angles, such as those two. Alright, now let's talk about theorems and postulates with angles in triangles. So right here we have two triangles. Let's talk about the black one. So the concept we need to know for this one is that a triangle always adds up to 180 degrees. That means if you know two angles measures, then you can figure out the third one. So this is angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 always equals 180. Let's test it out. So angle 1, let's say, is 18, and 72, that adds up to 90, and angle 3 must be 90. And for angle 4, we have to use another theorem here called the exterior angle theorem, and that says that if you add up the two angles that are not adjacent, which is not next to, it would be the angle measure for angle 4. So angle 1 plus angle 2 equals angle 4. So angle 4 in this case would also be 90. Alright, so for the last triangle, we have something called the base angle theorem, and that says that if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite must be congruent. So that would be this one and that one. And the same goes for the reverse, so if the two angles are congruent, then the sides are congruent. Thank you for watching. This has been Angle Postulates and Theorems provided to you by SATFreePractice.com.